Hello
Hello
there.
Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli,
I'm Jacob.
and today we're looking at episode 5, part 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, episode 124 of Star Wars in the Galaxy. And we're not doing it alone. I've detailed due to some unfortunate circumstances, we were going to originally do a guest all-inclusive guest season where all 6 parts of Obi-Wan Kenobi were going to be guests. Unfortunately, our guest plans for parts 3 and 4 fell through, but we're finally back to guests. I'm so excited for these two great people to cover part 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a landmark episode of Star Wars television for many reasons, in my opinion. We have from the Nerdherder Podcast. Also, one of them is my good friend and co-host on Star Wars in the Galaxy Epic Conversations. I'm so grateful they joined the team. We have from the Nerdherder Podcast, Boop and John. How are you both doing?
Wonderful.
Feeling good. You are my good friend, Eli. I love you.
You're good at
buddy.
intros too.
Aw,
Thanks so much.
good to have you guys on the show.
Glad to be
Yeah.
here, as Eli said, finally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know we were making some original plans for, I feel like, end of Bad Batch season 1 we were trying to do, and then that fell through or for some reason I'm forgetting right now, but I'm so glad we finally got you both on the show for part 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. There is a sense to me, and I think Jacob's getting tired of hearing how effusive my praise is for this show, probably.
I'm here for it. I'm all here for it.
I was looking on Instagram. There's this Instagram thing that was going around earlier today, like circle your top 5 favorite Star Wars projects, sort of thing. And this was in one of those top 5. I feel like not we all, like us specifically, but like the Star Wars fandom all forgot about how great Obi-Wan Kenobi was way too quick.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversation that happened about Andor for a very long time, but Kenobi just slid under the radar so quickly.
We got episode 3.5 in 6 glorious episodes, and then they were like, okay, next.
Yeah, and that's the problem with, and I enjoy it. I love being able to, now knowing that Bad Batch is coming soon and everything. I've missed Star Wars. It's been so long since we've been able to enjoy Star Wars. But one of the downsides to it is also then as soon as it's over, it's just all right, next.
Yeah.
And it's just
Absolutely,
through.
absolutely. It's a good problem to have, but it is still
For sure.
We existed in the lull of not much or if any Star Wars content for so long. I think we've forgotten what it was like to miss Star Wars.
I like. How long is it now? I'm trying to think. How long has it been since Ahsoka? It's been what, 4 months? Now,
A bit longer than that, probably.
I think it was early October. Like it ended early October.
Let me see. Only because I feel like it was so long ago.
I know. This month has been the longest year I've ever experienced. So yeah, it feels like a long time.
All right, Jacob, do you want to ask them our first question we asked to all first-time guests of this show?
Yeah. So, Boop and John, each of you respectively, first off, how did y'all get into Star Wars? What brought you to Star Wars?
We broke in.
We broke into Lucasfilm in the middle of the night and stole the Rebel plans.
I had to fight.
Sorry, Kathy.
I had to beat Kathleen Kennedy with a 2x4 to get episode 5, but we're here now. No. I grew up watching Star Wars with my dad. It was just something we did on the weekend. We were a movie family. So one of the movies in our rotation were the original series. And then the prequels came out when I was like, how old? 5?
Young.
I was very little when the prequels started coming out. Of course, my dad took my older brothers to see it. Every time one would come out, he would take them out of school to go to the movie theater, but I had to stay home for some reason until episode 3, obviously. And then I got to go see episode 3 with them. But yeah, it's always been a part of my life, but it wasn't really a fandom until something else came into my life. And then we went to go see The Phantom Menace in theaters, and that was finally kind of what...
Force Awakens.
That's the one. I got them mixed up.
That-
I'm a Star Wars fan. I help host trivia. But yeah, we
I was legitimately thinking for a second, I'm like, are they talking about the 3D re-release of Phantom Menace?
I
we
wish.
didn't get to go see that one, but I wish.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went to go see The Force Awakens in theater, and that was what flipped the switch for me. And then after that, we watched all of the Clone Wars in like 6 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I haven't looked back since. And I'm the number one Maul simp.
Wait, you could watch the Clone Wars all in 6 months? I didn't know that. I thought it had to take multiple years. I thought that's what we learned from this show.
No, and that was because I remember after they were like, okay, this is more interesting and fun than I thought.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's go back and watch the prequels and everything. Let's rewatch everything with this new light. And Maul was a big fascination. And the whole thing about watching Clone Wars was Maul's in it. He shows up eventually. And so for a long time, it was just baiting it out of just not long. Come on, just
He's almost season 4.
Another season, we're there. But much like with anything, it was interesting how everything I would be like, hey, isn't this cool? Oh, you like this? What about this? Boop would find something else. So it's I loved Qui-Gon, and Boop latched on to Darth Maul. I was like, okay, what about these cool bounty hunters? Boba Fett, and Boop fell in love with IG-88. It's just like, it was really interesting for me because I think that's when I really started to open up to, it's really whatever anybody wants. It's an individual kind of experience.
Star Wars is simultaneously a fantastic thing to share with community, but it is also an incredibly individual experience.
100%.
And it was interesting because it was not well in advance, but it was before all the stuff with the sequels happened, where it's just, no, Star Wars is this way, that way. It kind of helped put us in a position where when the sequels were happening, we were just happy to enjoy them our way and everything.
Oh yeah. I think that set us up for success. Definitely.
For sure. For me, Star Wars has just always been there. Similarly, my mom introduced it to me. We liked movies, and whatever my mom liked, she was very much all right, you're going to love this. And with Star Wars, with the original trilogy, I did. And it just became the main thing. I love a lot of stuff, but Star Wars has always been number one. And it's always been something I keep coming back to, because unlike a lot of people, like, one of my biggest traits when I like something is I'm not just going to watch it, enjoy it, and move on. And I keep experiencing it. I keep going back to it and repeating it. And it wasn't something my mom understood. And it's not something I think the older generation would understand. We have a very different access to media, both when I was growing up and now. We can just watch whatever we want, whenever we want, pretty much. And so I didn't really feel like there was a time without Star Wars, because I was continually rewatching the original trilogy, and then I was continually rewatching the prequels, and then watching Clone Wars, the micro series, over and over because I recorded it on VHS.
Still.
It's just every time Star Wars would happen, I would just immerse myself in it.
I was going to say it's accessible now. I know that a lot of friends of ours, and for reasons that I largely agree with, are against streaming services because of how people like David Zaslav and all those rich tech CEOs are removing things for seemingly no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make that clear. I oppose that.
For
but
sure.
also, just the idea that I can open an app, Disney Plus, and go, okay, I want to watch a Marvel film, or I want to watch this episode of Andor, or I want to watch a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, is like, of course, that's the point of convenient. But I don't think people fully, for somebody like me who really loves that stuff, and for within a few clicks, that's incredibly revolutionary.
Oh yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think that's something I was just thinking about the other day. Is I think it's easy to take for granted for all the negative things and everything that's happening in the entertainment industry with these streaming services. It really has changed the game for me as a Star Wars fan. And it's like, I could live without it, sure, but like it's pretty remarkable just to think a few years ago. It was not that long ago that it was like, okay, you find the Clone Wars is on Netflix, gonna go buy Rebels on Amazon Prime, gonna go down to the video rental to get the movies.
And you had to
it's
YouTube
pretty,
the micro series.
yeah, yeah, the micro series, you get that on YouTube. I remember doing that. I remember
When we did Cardigan Clone Wars for in the Galaxy, that's how we did it, because it wasn't on Disney Plus yet.
Yeah,
It's
and
pretty
that's the thing.
remarkable.
I never thought it would be like.
No.
It's incredible that something that has been kept in a time capsule thanks to YouTube found its way into mainstream Star Wars, because it's just like, I can understand from the corporate world being nobody cares about Caravan of Courage, nobody cares about the Battle for Endor, nobody cares. No, it's just
Nobody
like,
cares about droids, and then they put it on In a Galaxy almost right before we were going to do it. Maybe I might be making that up. Maybe it was a while before. I knew we were going to be doing droids for quite a while on IG, and I thought, oh, we'll just get it off of YouTube, something, I don't know. And then a few months before they put it on Disney Plus, I'm like, I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We get so used to the way things are. It's surprising when, because I would count that as a win. We get
Absolutely.
because for me, I love Caravan of Courage because it was one of those things when it happened. It was more Star Wars, and I just watched it and enjoyed it. And I would always tell people about it, but it's hard to find. It's hard to buy. And so now being able to just be like, hey, it's on Disney Plus. If you've got nothing better to do, check that out. Heck, even oh gosh, not the Wookiee in Need. What's it called? But yeah, the
Tale of the holiday special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. And even that, it exists. They've acknowledged it.
Yeah. We have
it's pretty
people
miraculous.
celebrating Life Day, not just in Star Wars, but in real life now.
But that's also why, for me, I feel like if more people took advantage of that fact, everything we're talking about, the access and all that, I feel like they wouldn't give in to their initial experiences. Like I said, I kept rewatching things. I didn't have time to think that, or I don't want to say didn't have time. It's not that I neglected to think about what I was watching when I watched The Phantom Menace. It's just that every time I watched it, all I did was enjoy it. I didn't listen.
Scratched your brain.
Yeah. The things that somebody was complaining about that they saw in the theater when they watched it 6 months ago, I'm like, I made sense of that not long ago. It's one of the, we always would encourage people on the podcast. We've told people countless times of just, it's okay not to like it initially, but give things another chance. And when you have so much ease of access right now, it's so easy to just try anything again. Try The Last Jedi again. Try,
That was me. I'm gonna say that was me with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Honestly, I watched it before the second time, right before Dial came out, and I'm like, this is actually not that bad.
Yeah,
it's
Eli.
Really, well, I referenced The Last Jedi. We could reference almost any modern Star Wars, but it's just the fact of the matter is people go in with expectations, and when it doesn't meet that, they don't know how to feel, and they automatically get defensive. And it's just, okay, now that you know it's not going to be what you fantasized, let's try again with what you know it is and see if you can just have fun with it. Turn your brain off for a sec, just enjoy the cool factor.
Exactly.
I completely agree with that. I think there's something, we live in this age, especially on the internet, we live in an age of hating. Like,
too much.
We just love to hate. And I think there's something very powerful in kind of finding what you do like about something, even if it's not totally what you want, or if it totally doesn't resonate with you. I think I agree with that, and that's something I had an experience like that recently with the last two movies of the sequel trilogy, which I take issue with a lot of the choices that they made, and they're not. I will never ever begrudge anybody who loves those movies, but I rewatched them.
If he did, he certainly wouldn't be doing a podcast with one of them.
Exactly.
The proof is in the pudding. But I kind of had a realization. I'm 20 years old. I don't have to be like out here rabidly hating on whatever. And I never really was doing that, but I just kind of realized life's too short to take that route. And it makes me sad to see so many people doing that, because I understand.
But Jacob, what about the opportunists in the fandom?
It's a painful experience when, especially with something like, for me, my experience with The Last Jedi was something like Luke, the character and the meaning of Luke Skywalker and the Jedi and all this stuff. It's so dear and so personal to me and so many people. And it was a painful experience to see that story end in a way that I was not really expecting and was definitely not hoping for, and definitely it didn't resonate emotionally with me, and that was a painful experience. But when I rewatched it, it was cathartic to have this experience of this. I know that this isn't perfect for me.
Mhm.
Why not focus on what I like about it? And that really changed my experience with those two movies.
So that right there's the thing, though, Jacob, is because that's the thing that not a lot of people are willing to do. We as people, we shy away from and we fear self-confrontation like that,
Mhm.
because that's essentially what you're doing. You're coming to terms with the fact of how you feel about something. And even that admission of feeling, we register that as humans as a loss.
Yeah,
I'm less
yeah.
than, I lose because I didn't like this. Something's got to be
Yeah.
wrong with me. And that's where we flip tables and we're just like, no, something's got to be wrong with that. It's got to be
Yeah.
wrong.
We are not Borg.
Yeah. And that's as soon as we can just admit, I didn't like it. That's it.
That's
And
right.
not take it personal, not put up our defenses about it. All of a sudden, it doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
we keep the wound fresh every time we continue going back to it and being like, man, Rian Johnson killed my childhood. And it's just, okay, I don't even think he knows who you are, but
No. He knows who I am.
which is scary.
I
Yeah.
know. Terrifying.
Yeah, I think that
I will say that the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game with Rian Johnson of us has gotten
I know.
significantly closer.
Terrifying thought.
but incredible.
Because I think that you could even make this conversation about Kenobi, because I think there were a lot of people that didn't
Yeah, the
like.
big podcast is supposed to be about.
There was a lot of people that didn't like Kenobi. They didn't like what it gave them. They didn't like that it existed at all. It's a lot of that same thing of, I think, going in with misaligned expectations and not wanting to just accept the fact that you didn't like something, or not wanting to give them enough credit to revisit it. Because sometimes it's that. It's just, no, I said it's wrong and I don't like it. And that's what I mean. I'm not
Mhm.
going to. It's almost if I come around 5 years later and say, you know what, I was wrong about Kenobi. Somebody's going to pop out from the bushes. Kathleen Kennedy's going to be just like, we got him. No, nobody cares that much. It's just,
No.
it's just entertainment, home media.
Yeah.
As much as we love these things, it's not that serious.
At the end of the day, it's just a movie. It's
But-
just a show.
I, however, really enjoyed Kenobi.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, I think we have one more question before we get fully into Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've talked about Star Wars at large. Now, how did y'all get into the podcasting, the other things? I don't want to use I know people take issue with the word content creation, but sometimes
Hard
it
C-
goes beyond podcasting.
C-word.
So
Hard C word.
the
Yeah.
C word, I'm sorry.
When did we
should've
start serving
censored.
content is
Yeah.
what you're asking.
I will always,
Killing.
literally just every time I will always just go content. Literally every time.
When did you begin generating content? That's how
by,
executives would ask it these days, I think.
by the way, speaking of when Jacob was talking about living in a world of such hatred, by the way, my brain filled that in 2 different ways. The first one was, of course, because I've been on the internet way too fucking much.
Yeah.
Is we live in a society.
We live in a society.
Stop talking to Jared.
And then the second one is from spending too much time around one of our other friends. The second way my brain autofilled it was, we live in a what have you done for me lately society.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
For
Both are-
more on that, check out next episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Both are factual. So we got into podcasting in 2018.
Yeah.
Not for the typical reasons. It wasn't a sit down and thoughtful conversation of
Yeah.
what did we wanted to do with the future and wanted to capitalize on something every other person was doing. My mom died in 2018, and that left a pretty big
Yeah.
hole in my life, and everything just sucked for a very long time, because on top of that we were going through a lot of stuff with our jobs, and it just felt like each other was the only good thing we had and
Yeah.
the stuff we love. And so we kind of turned in hard on that of just, okay, we have each other, we have this nerd stuff we love. What if we just set up a place to talk about that? What if we just keep having the conversations we already have, record it and put it out there? And maybe we'll find other people that like it too, and it'll catch fire, and we'll just forget how bad life can get sometimes. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. We started Nerdherder Podcast together, and it was just us. And for the first couple of years, all we did was sit in front of mics and talk about what we like. Then we grew to YouTube and doing videos, and then we grew to doing live streams and bringing on guests. And it's nothing more than what you're getting right now, where we just would tee up topics and discuss everything from your thoughts watching through Clone Wars, current events and news, because at one point it felt like every week we were getting some new information.
Aggressively talking about Dracula.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah. Doing a 3-hour episode on the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It was literally just something we did for ourselves. And it turned out to be something that a lot of other people were doing as well, but for different reasons. And so we were glad to find the communities we've found with people that take content creation a little less seriously, a little less corporately, and like us, just enjoy what we enjoy. And we might have a lot of opinions about things, but at the end of the day, it's just about celebrating and enjoying what we enjoy, rather than peddling and marketing and defending and attacking all this other stuff. Much like you guys, much like many of the friends we also share.
Some of the closest friends we've ever had.
Oh, facts.
From this community.
And with it, life got better. Not because things got easier or anything, but we had an outlet. Star Wars has always continued to be that for us, and the other things we love as well. But it's a way to kind of just get by in life, because sometimes it's very hard and very difficult. But you think about it less when you're watching Phantom Menace for the 50,000th time.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't lowball that number. That's a rookie number.
I've estimated it's only at 549.
I still think you're lowballing it.
So, but yeah, that's us. That's how how the accident happened.
Whoops.
How the accident happened.
Yeah,
This
that's
is-
how the
All
internet.
right.
This is amazing as well, if I can interject one more time before we move on, because Eli, I'm fairly certain you probably used that exact sentence, record the conversations we're already having and just put it out there, or I'm pretty sure you said
not-
almost exactly the same thing when you were pitching that to me back in
That's
January
not an original
2020.
idea. That is, I'm not taking
Oh,
credit
yeah.
for that at all. There's so many podcasts that have started
Yeah,
that
he
way.
stole it from me.
Not
That's what he's saying.
So I'm not taking. I probably heard it from somebody else, honestly. So I'm
I just think it's amazing. I was like,
taking
that is
0%
eerily-
credit for that.
that sounds eerily familiar, is all I'm saying, to our own
I-
journey
I'll
in
say
that way.
the correlation to that is, I think we're pretty great. I think you're pretty great.
It's true.
I think it comes down to your intention behind what you're doing. And so, and I get, all right, we joke, but it is content we make, but at the same time, we're not content creators, because there's not a plan or a thought or
No,
strategy to
not a single thought between these
anything
eyebrows.
we do. It's just, it comes naturally. And I think when it comes naturally, you tend to have better experiences.
Oh, for sure.
100%. Absolutely agree.
Absolutely. All right.
All right.
Let's get into Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let's do
Let's
this,
get it.
Jacob.
27 minutes in. Let's crack
this is how
What is this,
is
Nerd Herder
how-
episode?
the main
frankly,
meat.
this is how there
Okay.
should be more on this show.
So, in part 5 of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, we open on a scene in Coruscant set, I believe, before Attack of the Clones. Obi-Wan training Anakin in lightsaber combat at the Jedi Temple. Now, tracking the path's location on Jabim, Darth Vader promotes Reva to Grand Inquisitor for her good work in tracking down Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Empire arrives and they lay siege to the path's facility, sending in evil Lola, evil glowing red Las droid Lola, which is amazing, to deactivate the escape doors. So to stall for time, Obi-Wan negotiates with Reva, and he kind of finds out, he deduces that she knows Vader is Anakin, she witnessed the massacre, he figures out she survived as a youngling somehow. So she tells him, look, I wanted to gain Vader's favor, get close enough to him, take revenge, kill him rather than serve him. However, the facility is then breached. Tala sacrifices herself to hold off the stormtroopers a little bit longer and save Obi-Wan. And realizing they cannot win, Obi-Wan surrenders himself, and he's taken to Reva. But he convinces Reva to kill Vader when she delivers Kenobi to Vader, that is. Meanwhile, Leia opens up the doors. She removes Lola's restraining bolt and allows the path to escape before Vader sieges the facility. Vader almost gets them, but he force pulls down the wrong transport. So Reva then uses this opportunity to try and kill Vader, but he pretty quickly shuts that down and says, I don't know what you thought this was, but that shit's not flying around here. She's quickly overpowered. He stabs her in the chest and leaves her for dead. And the original Grand Inquisitor, in a pantheon of amazing petty moments that we get in this show,
Sorry,
this might take the fucking cake. I swear to God.
I need to say it.
Yeah, you can say it.
Hello, third sister. Which, for me, almost I remember the first time I watched that, almost demands a bitch afterwards. Like, almost demands it.
Yeah. So we'll get into this more. He even takes the pin off her. Surely they have more of those pins. Surely that wasn't the only one, but he had to do it. And the path escapes, but Reva, as she's rolling around on the floor trying not to die, she finds Bail Organa's message on Obi-Wan's hologram, revealing that Luke is on Tatooine, and that is where we end it.
Yes.
Crazy episode.
What an
So much-
episode that we have right here. For the 5th time, I want to just introduce this by saying this is becoming a running gag for this season, apparently, that I do this apparently just all the time. I told Jacob at the beginning, I told Jacob and our guest Nikki Kumar at the beginning that I would do this for every single episode. I'm like, I'm going to say every single episode how fucking cool the intro for Obi-Wan Kenobi is. And then my 5th time doing it, and I'm going for 6 next time. The sand forming it into the title, but I being his lightsaber, best Star Wars intro of all of them. I don't care.
Oh, for sure.
It's a good one. It's a banger. It's hard to disagree with that.
It's so damn good. I think we should probably go to the elephant in the room first, which is obviously where this episode starts. Which I remember, Boop, you DM'd me a picture of some of the first notes you were taking that referenced this, and my God, I'll just say God bless Andrew Stanton and Joey Harold and Deborah Chow, and obviously the MVP of this episode, in my opinion, Hayden Christensen, for making this happen. We will get to. I joked in my notes that we'll obviously talk about, in my opinion, Hayden's even better stuff in Ahsoka, probably in about 2031. But
we'll get there.
Eventually.
But I remember legitimately when we saw Hayden in this, and we knew Hayden was going to be in this in some form, but we saw Hayden in those flashbacks, which I didn't realize. For some reason, I thought they took place after Attack of the Clones for reasons I don't completely understand. But now that I literally, when Jacob said it, I quickly Googled it. I'm like, oh yeah, it probably makes way more sense that it take place before. But whatever.
He's got both hands.
Yeah. Oh, he has the hand.
That would be the giveaway.
I did not know about that. I did not.
I will say, in true nerd fashion, the first time we watched it, I recognized the saber before the hands. It was somebody else that pointed it out, and I was just like, "Did he?" But because
that's a good point. That's a point that I never.
He has the one he loses on Geonosis.
Yeah,
wow.
That makes sense.
I didn't even think about that.
No.
But so for a long time, for quite a while, although I don't think it was that long before Hayden was announced for Ahsoka, and even though I had no idea what Hayden's role in Ahsoka was going to be, so for a little while I thought that Obi-Wan Kenobi was going to be Hayden Christensen's swan song for this franchise. I thought this was going to be it. I thought he was returning for this, and we do this, and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And even if that was the case, what a performance to go out on.
Yeah, because you have this, and obviously his portrayal as Vader throughout, and I would definitely stack his appearance in episode 6 with this one as well, the final battle with Kenobi and everything.
Yeah.
If this was it, that's perfect.
Yeah.
He got to do everything. He got to be all parts, I would say, of Anakin's journey.
Yeah.
I was glad to be wrong when he appeared in Ahsoka and blew this out of the water.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing, is this is great, and yet somehow Ahsoka is still better.
Yeah.
Even though overall I will say I like this show slightly, and slightly more than Ahsoka. And I'm saying that as both projects are in that top 5 thing I was telling you all about earlier. But these two are basically neck and neck below Return of the Jedi and TCW for my favorite Star Wars projects, basically. So
I definitely like this one more.
Fair.
Yeah, but for me, it's like so close. But but even seeing Hayden Christensen, seeing Ewan and Hayden interacting over 15 years later as Master and Padawan once again,
Yeah.
in a room on Coruscant, what can you say that hasn't already been said about it? Like, this is something that actually our guest next episode and a good friend of all 4 of us, Alden Diaz from Octo Radio, was saying about when The Foundling came out, with where people were talking about The Foundling and Kelleran Beck's appearance being a redemption for Ahmed Best. It's not a redemption for Ahmed Best. It's a redemption for the fucking fans.
Exactly.
And I feel very similarly about Hayden. Hayden was given
Yeah.
so much shit. And look, I'm not going to pretend that I loved everything they did with Anakin in the prequels. I chalk up a lot of my annoyance with Anakin, especially in Clones, with George and his writing. But I think that Hayden did very good with what he was dealt in Clones. And I think honestly, once Anakin becomes Vader in Sith, I think Hayden's performance in Sith is incredibly underrated.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's because it's informed by his appearance and in interactions in Attack of the Clones. Is like I think he took some notes and learned what to do, and I think George Lucas did as well, because their whole relationship dynamic changed from 2 to 3.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention, everything that centers around Anakin and Obi-Wan after that is more in line with Episode 3 than it is with Episode 2. Even if you draw parallels to here's how Obi-Wan has snide little comments or demeaning suggestions to Anakin, it's like, okay, but yeah, he's saying it in a jovial way, at least. He's not chastising him in front of a room full of people. They have more of a friendly relationship. But I'm with you, though, Eli. And it's not like I think George is trash or anything, but any of the problems you can find with things, it's probably a George decision, and it's just because he was so... Yeah, it's not indicative of anything I think we should or could hold against any of the actors or any of the production crew or anything like that.
Yeah.
Leave Pablo Hidalgo alone.
Please, for God's sake, leave that poor man alone.
Yeah, that poor man.
He's been through so much these past few years.
He's
amazing, though. He takes it in stride.
He does.
Yeah, Pablo's a good guy. But yeah, as you were saying, John, just to see him as Anakin again is for me, and see him like again. I think some of George's writing for Hayden was actually pretty good sometimes, but to see Hayden under different people, under different directors, under Deb and Stanton and Joby Harold for this, and of course under Dave for Ahsoka, it's just so fascinating to see.
It's refreshing.
Oh yeah,
it is refreshing in a very real way, and
it also.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I think it works hard more in Ahsoka, but I think it works hard to merge every aspect of the Anakin we've seen. Clones, Sith, Clone Wars, like all of it kind of gets manifested here.
Yeah, stick it in a blender.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a deftness which they handle Anakin's character that feels authentic even as it's trying to mix in other aspects of the character. I'm glad that they took here and obviously way more in Ahsoka a lot of what Matt Lanter did with the character
Mhm.
into account. It did feel like a genuine collaboration between Hayden and Matt's forms of Anakin in Ahsoka, even in a way it didn't here. Where this one obviously had some inspiration from that, absolutely, but it still very much felt like Hayden's Anakin in a very
Yeah.
real way.
Mhm.
But we get these flashbacks flashing in and out of this episode. It's an interesting thing, speaking of the Foundling, because the Keller and Beck sequence
Oh,
which is one of my other favorite flashback sequences in Star Wars. That was all in one chunk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is interspersed throughout the episode. And there's a part of me that wishes, there's a small part of me that wishes that this were like the Foundling, that
Mhm.
all of the flashbacks were at the same time.
Yeah.
I understand why they did what they did, and I respect
Yeah.
why they did what they did, but there's a small part of me that wishes they all happened in one shot.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that.
Mhm.
Just because I feel like they're obviously trying to play up the suspense and the parallels and everything like that, but I feel like it takes at least a rewatch or multiple to
Yeah.
get the full experience of both parts of the story.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
like if you're like me, I'm very compartmentalized, and so I watch it just to digest it, and then on next rewatch I decide for myself, all right, which one am I paying the most attention to?
Yeah.
I can't do both. My brain shifts into, all right, I'm watching the flashbacks the most.
Yeah.
And so though I just try to process that in a deeper way, and then similarly, all right, I'm going to watch the modern part, the current event.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's got shades of, I cannot remember who wrote the first half of the Vader comics.
Depends on which one.
Oh,
I was
There's
going to say,
Charles Soule
there's
and-
3 of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's Charles Soule, Karen Gillan, and then the new guy.
I think it was Karen Gillan, the first few, where you see a lot more of Anakin or of Vader trying so hard to force down the last little bits of Anakin. And I feel like that's not something that we get very often outside of comics and books and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that aspect to see it in live action.
It's a fantastic point. There is the line that line from Obi-Wan at the beginning when they get to the planet that's currently my background right now, Ida Beam, which, by the way, bonkers. It wasn't in Gendy Clone. Bonkers Clone Wars comics reference.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I just reread
fantastic job.
the Dark Horse Republic comics not long ago. It was very different Jabim back in the day.
Yeah, but there's that line that Obi-Wan says, "He'll attack next. He hasn't the patience for a siege." And Roken then says to him, "How do you know?" And
Yeah.
obviously he can't say anything, but this is not just an inciting incident about the rebellion against the Empire, which it is. That's something that I think actually doesn't get focused enough, as how this directly shapes events like Aldhani and Rebels and other stuff.
Yeah.
With the rebellion against the Empire. This is also an
Great moment.
incredibly intensely personal battle between
Oh,
Obi-Wan and Vader.
Yeah.
This is like again, we'll get to this at the end, but the trick with the ships,
Yeah.
that was perfect.
Very good.
The ship trick is perfect.
That's so good.
It feels like it, even though it's about the safety and lives of dozens of innocent people, it
Yeah.
still feels like Master and Padawan playing tricks with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's where Star Wars, I think, is best, is because so there's multiple interpretations and there's multiple personal interpretations, and I'm in no position to discount what someone chooses to see or identifies with in Star Wars, but I think there's times where it's you can have yours and I can have mine that can coexist. And so when Star Wars is more than just one straight linear story or context, I think when you can watch this and you're like, oh, this is the Roken and them go on to be the backbone of one of the cells that join Phoenix and become the rebellion. Yeah, that happened. Also, this is when Obi-Wan gets his experience for the lines of a young Jedi by the name of Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. What happened? When Star Wars is multifaceted like that, where it's as much about Rebel versus Empire as it is Luke versus Vader. It's as much about the Republic versus the Separatist as it is Palpatine versus the Jedi.
Yeah.
All of it's going on in this cool little mush, and
it's simultaneously large scale and minor at the same time.
Yes, and I think that's what gives the rewatchability to it.
Oh, for sure.
You can always experience things differently, because I think it's probably within the last year that I really registered that the reason, like for me, the sequel trilogy feels so small scale is because it's so focused in on Ben and Rey.
Yeah.
The First Order versus the Resistance is really just the background for them, to me. It feels small scale, but when you really pay attention, it really isn't small scale. It's just that our focus is trained.
Obi-Wan says as much to Reva. He's not going to notice all of that going on. He's just focused on me.
That's another line that I love, which is, he's Obi-Wan pulling a sneaky on Vader. He's not bringing you to me, I'm bringing you to him. Other stuff like that. Yeah, there's so many fantastic lines in this. The dialogue in this episode specifically, I believe this is the episode where that Andrew Stanton joins as a co-writer. As if y'all know Andrew Stanton from a lot of writing at Pixar, where he's written a ton of lauded. He wrote all 4 Toy Stories. He wrote pretty much any Pixar film he wrote. And he wrote, he co-wrote 5 and 6 which are both incredibly written episodes. And I'm so glad that, in addition to Joby Harold and Hannah Friedman and all those people who were also great on this series, I'm glad that they got him. And these episodes, to me, writing wise, really show for it.
Sure. Yeah, especially in the personal context. I feel like that's where they shine, because I feel so much emotionally happens in these 2 episodes in particular. I do want to comment on the fact that I feel like Imperial Stormtrooper equipment should be like better inspected, because this episode gave me such Return of the Jedi vibes, where it's like Reva and Kenobi are having this conversation and there's just 2 guards flanked. And it's like when Luke and Vader are talking on Endor, and it's just like, you just said his real name. You just called him your son. It's just like, how much are you paying them to shut up?
And also, how good is your hearing in those helmets, I think, is also...
I was actually going in from a completely different situation. I thought you meant you're capturing a high-value prisoner to the Empire. Why are there only 2 fucking guards there?
Exactly, that too.
That, and then why did you put him back in the bunker? Like,
where did the rest of the guards go too? Because there was a whole battalion down there.
I know there's specifically, I know that these middle chapters, specifically 3, 4, and 5, have often been criticized for usages of the volume. And I'm not somebody, I'm infamously terrible at recognizing the volume.
Yeah.
I did notice it a little bit here, where it's only that many stormtroopers for attacking Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's it. But then again, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, at the end of the day, I don't really care about how many stormtroopers are there. Stormtroopers are there, and that's fine.
Newt Gunray sent 6 battle droids to kill 2 Jedi in the Phantom Menace. So, not the first time they've been underestimated.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not usually a super loud critic of the volume. I know we talked about this a few episodes ago, but I did feel like this was one of the moments when it was more noticeable, I think, for what it's worth. Which, I don't know, it is what it is. I think that some of the wider scenes, the kind of set piece moments, they were a little bit underwhelming, but it is what it is. It doesn't take away from what this episode did well. So, I don't really care.
It doesn't, it's okay for people to hear criticisms. Yeah, I hope someone's ears aren't burning listening to this, of just like, the volume's not a problem.
It's whatever, dog.
We're not saying it is. It's just that it's a detail. It's there. A stormtrooper bunks his head, and it made the cut in New Hope. Stuff happens, man.
Remember Jay on T?
What's that? Yeah.
My guy, Jay on Ski.
Yes.
Was
And
canceled
somehow
before his
that
time.
gave-
Jay on Ski was canceled.
and that gave him some intuition into the Force. This guy.
Oh, that was that.
That was from a certain point of view. It's just like, okay.
Those books are amazing.
So Luke killed every stormtrooper on the Death Star but one. Anyhow.
Exactly.
But yeah, the scale hurt this one for me, and it just felt
Believe
like
me, I
we
know
were just
you're
talking about it. There you go.
Hey.
We were just talking about it with a Star Trek episode where it's just, oh, they've been using this set a lot.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see different.
Yeah.
I'd like to expand what's in front of me because
Yeah.
I feel like it would add to the depth. But
There's only so many sets.
yeah, there's a reality to the things that we're watching as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, the biggest thing for me is when they take him back into the bunker afterwards. It's just you sent him back in with 2 stormtroopers. Of course he was going to escape. Like,
What exactly did you think was going to happen?
This is Obi-Wan
there's a part of
Kenobi
me
we're
that
talking
wonders
about.
if Reva knew that, and she was like, "Okay, fuck them stormtroopers. He'll get out. He'll do his thing. I'll distract Vader. It'll provide a better go after Vader and stuff like that."
I think you could rationalize it with, because imagine, okay, I'm going to keep him right here, wait for Vader. In the big shot, we see what has to be at least 30 stormtroopers that land with her. If she made her move on Vader, she and Kenobi would be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
For me, that's an in-universe explanation. She wanted a private area to commit her treason.
Yeah.
Or they just
And
think
went.
about it.
It doesn't it doesn't really matter. But what's the next thing I was gonna say? Oh yeah, there's that line from the flashback that I love that has been pointed out so many times on Twitter and other places that about how brilliant this line is. It's the mercy doesn't defeat an enemy, master. Which is so great because I've heard people say that argument is really dumb by Anakin because that argument ends up bringing back a Skywalker, and I disagree with that.
Yeah.
That statement is so wrong because because mercy ends up bringing back multiple Skywalkers.
There you go.
That
Okay,
is
I'll give you
correct.
that one.
Yeah, Anakin and Ben both. I think you can argue.
Oh,
Very
yeah,
diverse.
for sure. And that's the thing is anybody that's been in one way or another affiliated with organized religion at some point and read the good book, there's
Dracula?
no, there's a scripture in Proverbs that is very similar to this, where actually it's the reverse, where in reality it's mercy that does defeat an enemy because you make peace with them. They can't be your enemy if you make peace. And I think that's the interesting thing, because that's the thing that changes for Anakin much further down the road. He sees where no, mercy does make a difference. It made a difference for me. And I'm going to temporarily defeat Palpatine by throwing him in this shaft. But yeah, I really like that juxtaposition of their 2 points. He sees I was just going to say he sees an enemy where I guess you could argue Kenobi sees an opportunity. It's very indicative of their approach to situations and the Clone Wars and everything like that, where Obi-Wan tries to talk down Tal Merrick and Anakin just stabs him in the back.
It's effective.
Yep.
Though I would argue that Anakin's right in that situation, but whatever.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'd confirm or deny, but I just
He did what he did.
exactly.
Exactly.
I
The
love
line
that
after
always-
Anakin does that in Voyage of Temptation is fantastic. Is first of all, I don't know if y'all remember, but when he stabbed him, the music flourishes. Dun dun dun
Yep.
dun dun.
Yeah.
We get a little flash of the
It's
Imperial
so
March.
good.
Fantastic.
They use that so sparingly, but it's
When,
so right.
when Merrick drops to the floor, Anakin just goes, "What? He was gonna go blow up the ship."
Well, I was gonna say I love Obi-Wan's delivery there. Just Anakin.
You
Yeah.
scam.
This
Just
is
so
not a 90s
scolding.
sitcom. That was murder.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But yes, that part of their interaction is
Oh, yeah.
probably one of my favorites. Because as cool as the lightsaber stuff is, I like the dialogue that reveals the whole character. Basically, I like you could summarize Anakin at least at that point in his life with that interaction. So
Yeah.
it's really good on their part.
Absolutely. I want to get to another major plot point of this episode, which is something that I never thought, even from the beginning, was going to happen. Like, we were going to see something like this in this series. I'm so glad they put this in, which is the hollow message that Bail records for Obi-Wan, where he's, look, I want to read. If I don't, no, actually, well, he says much stuff, but I have specifically one part. But like, I haven't heard from Leia. I haven't heard from you in a while. I know I said I wasn't going to check back, but I'm worried about her. If I don't hear from you soon, I'll head to Tatooine. Owen will need help for the boy, with the boy. And just the fact that Bail Organa was more committed to the legacy of the Skywalker family than his own.
Mm-hmm.
Than his own extremely cushy life of being an Imperial senator from Alderaan. He was willing to give that all up, royalty, to make sure that Luke was okay.
Yeah.
Bail's as real as they come, man.
Okay.
I love, and also at
Yes.
that point in the episode, pacing wise, execution wise, I love that they put that there, because it was like, just to make sure you remember everything that's riding on what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Just to make sure Obi-Wan fully knows the responsibility on his shoulders, because just a few episodes ago, he was crumbling under the weight of much less than what he's now stepping up to do. Yeah. But I think that's part of what I love about this episode is we see, Eli, we talked about this last episode, we're seeing on Jabin that turning point of where Obi-Wan decides fully commit to taking on the weight of the responsibilities, his own,
When he
his
becomes
own
Obi-Wan
emotional,
Kenobi
everything tied up in that. And then we see here Leia when she says, someone get me a ladder. And then the Rogan's, oh, no way. And Obi-Wan, for once, now he's saying, nope, let the kid go in there. We got to do what needs to be done. When previously he was like, don't touch anything, stay with me, don't do it. It's a beautiful thing to see how Obi-Wan kind of reclaims himself and fills himself out throughout this show.
Speaking of Obi-Wan reclaiming who he is, there was an identity of Obi-Wan Kenobi that I didn't think we were going to see in this series, but we saw in this episode with that speech to the Path. That is
General Kenobi.
Yeah.
General Kenobi of the 212th Legion. That is the battlefield leader.
Yep.
Like,
Awesome.
I didn't think we were going to see that back, but that was fully. It felt like a scene back in the Clone Wars before a particularly dangerous battle. But that was Obi-Wan going back 10 years to who he was on the battlefield on such planets as Geonosis and Urbana and all of those different places.
Yeah.
Genuinely made me tear up a little bit just seeing Obi-Wan regain himself in such a way.
Exactly, because to this group of people, he's just some guy, and here he comes with absolute sure control over what he's saying. And I love that he starts it off with just the bummer of, hey, we're gonna die. We're probably gonna die. But
let's manage expectations from the top.
Exactly, to a bunch of kids too.
Because someone had pointed out a lot back when this was first airing and everything like that, a lot of people stopped viewing Obi-Wan as a reluctant hero. In the first episode when he accepts the job to go find Leia, but he's still wrestling with that fully until the very last episode. He almost didn't even remember how to use the Force to save Leia at one point.
He was struggling with it at the beginning of 4.
Exactly.
He very haphazardly handles a lightsaber in episode 4 to rescue Leia. You slowly, like Jacob said, you slowly see him coming back to himself and stop handling things as Ben the Hermit and handling it as Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because that's also the transition we have here with his view of Leia. He stops seeing her as a reflection of his failings with Anakin and being overbearing and overprotective, and trusts her. No,
go right ahead.
If
Yeah.
you think you can do this, I believe in you. And it changes the whole rewatch when you see Obi-Wan struggling more with himself than with the mission throughout this series.
For sure.
At least
Yeah,
for me.
I mean, I think to your point as well, John, I think Obi-Wan to some extent is a perpetually reluctant hero. That's kind of who he is to a big extent. And it's also about what does it take for him to, especially now, but always, it seems for him, it's what will it take for him to take up the mantle of Jedi, hero, warrior, whatever it is. And that's part of what makes this episode so resonant, I think, is we see he's now imbuing others with that same sense of purpose, not just himself going after Leia, but for everyone who's there, for all the children who are seeking refuge with the path, for Roken, for Tala, even for Haja Estri, who comes back as well. Can we shout out Haja Estri for a minute? I love this guy. I did not like the way that they worked him into the first, was it episode 2 where he first pops up?
Yeah.
Too.
But man, there is something really powerful to me about his presence in this episode, and kind of the little metamorphosis or the realization that he's gone through to do the same thing that Tala is doing, that Obi-Wan has been doing. And I love that for him.
Yeah, he's no longer a grift. He's finally a part of something.
Yeah.
He understands what it's like to be a Jedi.
That's such a banger line.
It's so good.
And that's the thing is, if we were invited on to talk about chapter 2 when he first shows up, it would just be about him, because I love him so much.
I love the just banger after banger Kumail Nanjiani is having.
Oh yeah, but in chapter 2 he gets to play off Ewan, and we get to see sarcastic Kenobi come back a little bit.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great.
The Kenobi that's just like, oh, we came to rescue you. Good job.
The line that I remember specifically from part 2 was like Kumail Haja saying, "I do all of this to serve the light," and Obi-Wan going, "Goodness, that light must be unforgiving."
Oh yeah, when he talks about the price, it's just
yeah.
Oh. And that's what people forget. Ewan is freaking hilarious.
Oh, he's so funny. This is a guy who watched his apprentice jump from a speeder in midair and goes always on the move.
And that's the thing. He gets just the right amount of moments to shine. Because obviously, especially with the episode we're talking about, so many emotional moments, so many dramatic moments.
For sure.
But he's also funny as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's here we go. So I'm trying to figure out where to go next. Oh yeah, here's I think another big one to get next, which is the big twist of the episode. How do you know who he is? You wouldn't have seen him unless you were there. The night of Order 66, you were a youngling. Let me tell you about something. If somebody told me that the major crux of getting Obi-Wan back out into the open and facilitating the conflict between Vader and Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was a surviving youngling who survived the events of the Purge Massacre, I would have, before this came out, I would have said, shut up, that's some dude bro shit. I hate that idea.
They did it well.
And I love it. I love it in this series. It is something that I feel like I should hate. It's an idea that in theory I should hate. But it's executed so well done here. And I think that a lot of that is Moses. How nuanced of a character she is. Again, I said it on our last episode. Best light side, dark side struggle under the Disney era. Suck it, Ben.
Dang.
I love Kylo. I love Kylo. I do.
Let's take his shots tonight.
But yeah, Moses gets to act her ass off in
She does.
this and in chapter 6, because no longer, like, all of a sudden the context of her antagonism in the first half of the series takes on a whole different light.
Oh yeah, she goes from this deeply troubled so angry person that you see destroy lives that are just in her way, to looking like a scared child in that scene.
Oh yeah.
She did everything she had to do to survive, and that's what
Yeah.
comes up in this. Is this you don't know what I can do alone? When
Yeah.
Obi-Wan says you can't possibly take him alone,
Yeah.
that survival mode that she put herself in to do whatever's necessary to get this done. So I mentioned earlier, and literally within the last week, I was rereading the Republic series from Dark Horse back in the day, dealing with Jabim and all that. But something that happens adjacent to that in the storyline is Quinlan Voss getting sent deep cover to orchestrate an assassination attempt on Count Dooku.
Yeah. Shout out to Quinlan Voss.
Yes. And he does something very similar in canon, but it definitely takes a different turn in Legends. But I see a lot of that journey of Quinlan's for the Clone Wars comics in Reva here. It the choices that she makes and the depths she goes to get done what she thinks is the most necessary thing, which in this is revenge, kill Vader. She's not trying to save the rebellion. She's not trying to save people.
Yeah. That's the other part of the reveal, is that she's trying to hunt Vader, which
for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's something that happens with Quinlan. I think it's actually something that happens a little bit with Anakin, but mostly not with Anakin. But it definitely happens with Quinlan. It happens with Luke a bit in Legends, actually. But there's this arc of, I think I can outsmart the dark side. I think I can wade in it and be better than it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It never works.
Yeah.
Yep.
It
It's
never, ever works. You
And,
will
you know,
always lose yourself in it.
Absolutely. And it really snap focuses the context of her character in that moment. You realize that she's a survivor, and all of the traits that she's been exhibiting through the past episodes, that's just from the memory that she had of Anakin going through the temple. She was trying to be like him, and that's why she is the way that she is.
And that's the thing, because that honestly I think comes full circle in the next chapter when she asks, have I become him? And thankfully no, but that's the beauty of it, is we're so focused on Kenobi's redemption, because I would categorize this as a redemption, on the galvanization of Anakin as Vader, that we miss the fact that here's this parallel of everyone is a choice away from being Vader. And in this moment, Reva made the right choice and chose mercy, and in that ended up really defeating herself, her evil characterization of herself, rather than defeating Vader, which is what she thought she needed to do. The best way to honor that part of her that died that night and her friends was not to give up what she knew, but to hold fast to it. And you can draw the parallel of, that's the same thing Obi-Wan learns, is it's just the only way I'm getting out of this is if I'm a good Jedi. Yeah, duh.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful when they do it that way. It's so simple to get it down into words, but it's so beautifully portrayed. You and Moses are such amazing actors and take you on such a journey with such simple concepts. And so it's really hard not to pair up this episode and chapter 6.
Absolutely.
We gotta leave y'all something to talk about next time.
No, I'm sure we'll have planning, and you know our guest for next episode. He'll always find a way of talking about something.
Exactly.
So,
fill that episode.
So we're fine. We're
you
totally
better spend 30 minutes, no less, on frickin' Baru, though, because my God.
Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
We simp, queen.
Exactly. We stand a protective queen. Speaking of Reva and her stuff, I just want to mention a small thing, very small critique I have with this episode. This is maybe my most Jared take I think I've ever shared on the show so far.
Is it about the stuff?
I wish we got a lightsaber duel between Reva and Obi-Wan in this episode.
Oh yeah.
It never happened in the series, and I wish it happened. It's not like this series is ruined, because nowhere close to that. I just wish it happened. I wanted to see Reva in a dedicated duel against Obi-Wan.
It would have been cool. It would have been awesome. I agree with you. But I think it also makes sense for the story that it never comes to that for them, especially after this moment with them at the door, and we realize this isn't about Obi-Wan. They're
Yeah.
not actually enemies. They're both in their own way. One of them maybe more healthily and effectively than the other one at this point. They're both dealing with the havoc and the tragedy and the unimaginable pain that this man, Anakin and / Vader, has imposed on their lives. So I think it makes sense that it ends up being that she decides not to take that route. I think it's very fitting in this conversation, especially. I think the sympathy that they have towards each other, it's remarkable after everything, especially knowing Reva and knowing how angry she is and knowing the lengths that she's willing to go to. So to me, it felt very fitting. That being said, who doesn't love a badass lightsaber fight?
Yeah.
Couldn't go wrong with that.
I agree. I think if she had fought Kenobi, just in story-wise, I think it would have been too late. That's when she would have been too far gone, I think. Because for me, similarly, Jacob, in my head, the way I rationalize it is this is the closest she's ever been to getting Vader, which is the point. We see on Tatooine, she's so angry and so motivated to get this Jedi because that's a step closer to Vader. I think the same way that Vader would only see Kenobi, she only sees Vader.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Kenobi plays against her.
Oh yeah.
In that, I do think, because we see Ewan and Hayden have all the skill they did all those years ago in episode 3.
Oh, for sure.
I think that acrobatically and skillfully, I would have loved to see what they could have done with Moses and Ewan choreography wise.
Yeah.
Because Moses did quite the boot camp to get ready for this role.
I was gonna say we'll get to her duel against Vader soon, but like she is moving the best of them in that fight.
Yeah.
You see all of the force in her swings, along with like,
The acrobatics is there and like all that stuff. It's fantastic.
Very impressive.
And then we get my final thing with Obi-Wan and Reva for this episode, which is the 6 heart-wrenching words that Reva says here. When Obi-Wan says to Reva, we have the same goals, and she asks, do we? Do you really want Anakin dead?
$1 million question.
Incredible.
And it is a question, of course, we'll revisit in part 6 with Obi-Wan's decision to leave Anakin alive at the end of part 6, next episode. But it's such a Vader is very much like a lot of Star Wars villains, kind of like a dog chasing a car, where he wants to inflict pain upon Kenobi, he wants to kill Kenobi, but he doesn't know what he's going to do once it happens.
That was the most Jared thing you've said.
Jared has said that about marking on rope, which is also true.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's going to happen once he actually does it. But Obi-Wan is also in a weird position like that too. Obi-Wan, of course, didn't want to be drawn back into this, but I don't know what I don't know exactly what he's thinking at this point. I feel like I know by the end, but I don't know exactly what he think about this point of does he think Anakin can still be saved? Does he think that his death, even though they were basically brothers for years on ends, would be the best thing for the galaxy? I don't know what he thinks about Anakin at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, because we see where he is in episode 5, where he's basically telling Luke, oh man, you're gonna have to kill this guy. There's nothing good left.
Yeah. It all crystallized in part 6 where he goes, of course, goodbye, Darth. And even though he's going to keep him alive because he still has some emotion for his friend, he basically has to accept with, of course, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did.
Yeah.
That leads him to basically accepting that, no, Anakin Skywalker is dead.
Yeah.
The only thing that remains in his place now is Darth Vader. He's, of course, wrong, but...
Yeah, if I can say something I wouldn't be able to say because I'm not going to be on the conversation for part 6, but just because you're bringing that moment up.
Here we go.
I think the reason, and I want to emphasize, I think for me, in my opinion, because you can read it any way you want, but I think the reason he left Vader is because he would have truly lost himself as the Jedi he just rebuilt if he played into what Vader was saying there. If it's true that Anakin is dead, you can't save him, All that remains is Vader, and I'm not going to stop. So what are you going to do? Are you going to kill me? Are you going to throw away your Jedi code? Am I too dangerous to be left alive? Remember, that was the rationale that got 2 other people killed. It's almost like
that's an incredibly good take. I can totally understand that.
Yeah. And so I think I think that's when he forms his first opinion. To go back to what you were saying, I feel like that's when he forms his first opinion about Anakin, because when he learns that Anakin is still alive, I don't think he wants to think about him.
Yeah.
And when he's given no choice but to think about him, he's okay, maybe I can reach him.
Mhm.
But as soon as he realizes that's not possible, I think he does the same thing Vader does after he kills Kenobi. He knows exactly what to do. Is now he knows about Luke, because if you in the Marvel comics, he finds out not long after, thanks to Boba Fett, he all of a sudden has
that
a reason to live. Oh yeah, that
image.
and,
If you know, so
and that Vader,
you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, that Vader
Jacob?
mirrors so well with the Vader we see here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob, do you know what I'm talking about from the Vader comic?
Vaguely. I have not read a lot of the Vader comics, I must admit.
Boba Fett tells Vader, the man who destroyed the Death Star is named Skywalker, and Vader's standing on the bow of a Star Destroyer, and the glass is shattering around him.
Oh, you know what? I have seen that. It's a very cool moment.
The most iconic Star Wars comic panels ever, and it's so good.
It's right up there with Vader Down, where he's like, "You're surrounded." He's like,
I'm
Oh my
surrounded
god.
by fear and dead men.
So good.
"Oh,
Dude, Vader
so-
Down's insane, man.
That
So
is,
good
by
when
the
he's
way,
so
that
metal.
is such a Jared line. I gotta say, that is such a Jared line. That is
Never
such a
mind
Jared
that-
line.
that,
That
like-
is
Have you
so
tried to
good.
use that in a trivia competition yet?
I don't
No, I
think so.
should. I
Don't give him,
fucking
don't give him the idea.
no. But that line is so edgy for edgy's sake.
oh,
like, I love
but
it.
it works so good.
I love it.
And
Beautiful.
never mind
It
that,
is beautiful.
because it's a different artist. With Vader Down being a one shot. He's super swole WWE Darth Vader in that comic too.
Intro.
It's like the Royal Rumble of Darth Vader. It's just so amazing. But yeah, I think that by the end of it, Kenobi really wins, because I think he finds a meaning that Vader doesn't at the end of this series and everything. But I think it's because he answers that question.
Mhm.
I don't want Anakin dead. He already is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to reference one meme I'm about this sequence, which is, I forget who it's from. I don't actually forget who it's from. So I don't remember who's made this meme on Twitter, but it's Reva and Obi-Wan. Where were you when he was killing my friends? I was riding a giant lizard, Reva. I'm sorry.
I think about that every time. I'm just like, I was killing Grievous. Like I wasn't
Shit
there.
to do, man.
But for
I was-
him,
I was lizarding, okay, my man? I was lizarding.
but
I
that's
was
still,
designing a cool intro. I leapt 9 stories and then I said, "Hello there." Oh, that's the thing I say. Come on.
That's the thing I said.
but it still
Oh.
cuts for him. That line still really cuts for Obi-Wan, because on some level, logically, yeah, he was doing his own thing. How could he possibly have known? But for him, emotionally, he still feels responsibility, and now he's literally staring face to face one of the few survivors of something that he feels is his fault and that he feels could have been prevented. It's a beautiful moment.
But
It really is.
it recontextualizes Kenobi in the original trilogy for me, in the sense that I no longer think it was a selfish decision to claim from a certain point of view that Vader was not Anakin. I always took it as, I'm avoiding my problems and my guilt. All of a sudden now, no, he's got good reason to be fearful and guilty of that, because he blames himself because others probably blame him.
Yeah.
He was the master. It just hits differently, and I think that it's hard not to watch those moments when he talks about Anakin and Vader in the original trilogy and not imagine he's thinking of Reva.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's God. The amount that this makes Alec Guinness Obi-Wan in the OT so much better.
Oh, for sure.
We could go on for hours about that, and we probably will next week, just because part 6 is the one that really, for me, reinforces it the most.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy, and he burned so good.
So crispy.
Excellent man. Excellent man. Flammable. We got to address our other big elephant in the room, which is, of course, Indira Varma and her excellent portrayal of Tala Durith.
So good. And no dialogue.
Delivering the thesis statement of this show, in my opinion, when she was talking to Obi-Wan about her backstory with rounding up dissidents for tax evasion, supposedly on Garel, which is also another great reference. And she says to Obi-Wan, where was it? Where is this? It's in my notes somewhere. Oh yeah, some things you can't forget, but you can fight to make them better.
Exactly.
If that's not the thesis statement of this show, I don't know what is. The way that Tala specifically, and through Indira Varma's fantastic portrayal of her, inspires Obi-Wan to be his best self, is fantastic. And also, I think, inspires Leia a great deal as well. And then, of course, they get overwhelmed. She gets shot. Ned B is a chat as always.
Oh my god.
Blasting. Fucking love Ned B. My guy.
Best droid.
And then I gotta hold them off. Tala, no. Holds thermal detonator in the air. May the force be with you. And Tala dies. I gotta say that this is one of the most, it's up there with gone too soon deaths for me with Steela and Tech.
Yeah.
For sure.
I understand the reasons that it had to happen. And yes,
I don't.
Thanks, Dad.
But it still hurts.
Yeah.
It still hurts. And the impact that Tala had on this show, I really loved all the scenes that Indira Varma shared with Ewan. I thought she was great with Ewan, and I thought she was great with O'Shea Jackson Jr. and with Vivian as well. Tala's a great character, and she's an important part of this episode, which of course involves her ultimate demise.
Yeah.
Great addition to the show.
Oh,
yeah. Sure. We should have known it was over for her once we got a backstory. Because
yeah.
Well,
we got a backstory for Broken.
Yeah, but when she has that Tinder moment, it's like an anime.
Yeah.
It's just like when you get an episode focused on a character.
Yeah.
Oh shit, it's
over.
Down.
Yeah. It's almost like when The Bad Batch season 2 had multiple episodes focusing on Tech before they killed him.
That was so cruel of them, man. I'm not over that, man. That shit hurt.
It's okay. He's coming back.
He's coming back. It's okay.
He's gonna come back.
Hope.
Let me live the delusion.
He and Talia are coming back.
I just wanted him and what's her name?
I
want him and Fee Genoa to be together. Great ship right
there.
Yeah.
Brown
eyes.
Ah,
why?
I loved their little relationship.
That was great.
Yeah, Star Wars has a problem with giving characters momentum without death.
Sometimes
it's just like it's the only way we can inspire them. But just once someone we love to make it out okay.
It's okay. You can say Garza Flip.
Why?
I didn't understand.
I don't know.
We have
Max Rebo survived worse. He and she can do it again.
Yes, Max Rebo's alive too.
So we have that great. I think I want to jump to the end now. Not the end, but to that bait and switch with the ships, which I thought was done
Force Unleashed
so
moment.
well. Sorry, what did you say? The Force Unleashed. Yeah. Pull it out of the sky.
I just love that there was hardly any criticism for it when Vader does it, but when Rey did it in The Rise of Skywalker, everybody's lost their minds. Of just
because
all right, come on, guys, it's just fun.
No, absolutely. But that whole bait and switch with Vader, I think, is just so. And the lines flashing to the flashbacks that Obi-Wan says to Anakin, "You're a great warrior, Anakin, but you'll need to prove yourself as your undoing. Until you overcome it, a Padawan you will still be."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote like it was this reinterpretation of the encounter on the Death Star from A New Hope again. Now it's I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The circle is now complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Okay, you got me on Jabeam and that rocky planet. I'll give that to you. Now I am the master. But I've leveled up. Only a master of evil, duh. No, you haven't. You absolutely fucking haven't.
No.
I'm going to disappear.
Then why are you here?
I'm going to disappear into the fucking Force, and you're going to be so fucking confused.
Mhm.
And
And that's the thing is I have on rewatch of A New Hope now, the reason he tells Luke of I've got to do this alone, your destiny lies on a different path. I think it's because he's pulling the same problem. It's just I know Vader knows.
Yeah.
I'm here, he's gonna find me. You can't be here when that happens.
Yeah.
And so
make
it's
it worth it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And he knows there, okay, the rebels are escaping. The only thing that's going to keep you is
right here.
me giving myself.
Look
like,
at me. I'm the galaxy's biggest revenge whore.
It's just hit me. Do it now.
Yep.
And there's so much in this episode and in later that I can't help but keep seeing in episode 4 and 5 and 6 with the log sitting scene. What I told you was true from a certain point of view.
Yep.
So
it's really like, and then we get, of course, our final major event of the not final major. There are two major events left in the episode, but one of the big ones is when Reva attacks Vader.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
and
man. This is insane.
That mask cannot make expressions. But I swear to God, it felt like Vader was going, the fuck? Because, like, you really thought that you could sneak up on me?
Yeah.
The absolute, like, the way that Vader absolutely dismantles Reva is so entertaining to me.
Without drawing a saber.
Anakin Skywalker continues to be the pettiest bitch in the galaxy.
Mhm.
Oh my God, tell me about it.
And where he goes, okay, so I'm going to get your lightsaber, break it in half. Sure, I'll give you one. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see how this goes. We both get a lightsaber. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
This is Frieza fighting Goku, and
I'll
only use one of my
hands. I'll give you a handicap. I'll still beat you. I'll still beat you.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, man.
It's so petty, and I love it. And as I said,
killing, man.
But they lose nothing about. They don't undo anything he does in 4, 5, and 6 duel wise.
Yeah.
They still absolutely use his stature and almost indomitability here in this scene, where it's just no matter what you do, you can't get me, you can't hit me. I am a mountain.
Yeah.
I put in my notes about, and this was what I was saying about this is great acrobatics. That feeling when you're 3 times faster than your opponent and he still beats you in less than 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like watching old Andre the Giant fights. These people are just ducking and diving. He's just like,
Yep. Oh, yeah. But to your point, though, I do appreciate something that is different in how they handle modern Vader, because I put Rogue One up there as well, than how they handle the original trilogies. They think more about the suit portrayal.
Yeah.
They consider the expression of Vader more, rather than just having David Prowse do his normal thing without thinking of necessarily how it translates once the suit's on and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of Hayden being able to be completely Vader in this.
Yeah.
He had some stunt actors, obviously, but I think the performance being complete rather than being David Prowse but then covered up and then voiced over, this definitely feels a little bit more solid character-wise as far as Vader goes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and that fight is incredible, of course, as is what happens at the end with the the actual Grand Inquisitor coming up. And
oh my God, dude.
This
is just unbelievable, man. This is too much.
Revenge does wonders for the will to live.
That line,
what is wrong with this dude, man?
I would genuinely hate if Rupert Friend didn't deliver it so well.
I know.
Oh, and that it's his lines in this one. This episode is when I was just like, I freaking love this dude.
Yeah.
Because so many times I'm just like, he's no Jason Isaacs. He's no Jason Isaacs. But then this moment is when I'm just like, Jason
Yeah.
Isaacs
Something
who?
else. Yeah.
And then, of course, Haja does the biggest whoopsie-daisy of the series and leaves the comm behind.
Such a oops.
Um, And,
To be fair, it was broken.
no, I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying, like, it's such a small moment, but Reva sees the message and now has the chance to fundamentally alter the Skywalker saga as we know it.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That is the crazy thing for me, is that she now knows everything.
For sure. It's the shakeup I didn't expect.
Yeah.
It was on the same level of when it was revealed that Leia was going to be in this.
Yeah.
In more than a cameo sense, when it was essentially about her and Obi-Wan.
Mhm.
That was a big twist for me. On the same level, it's just like, oh shit, Luke's still out there. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden brought back what I thought this was going to be about, dealing with Obi-Wan's need and charge to protect Luke.
Yeah.
And the fact that Owen she specifically encountered and lied straight to her face, and that motherfucker is taking
Oh,
care
It,
of
it-
the
again,
most
re-
one of the most important children in the galaxy.
Yeah.
yeah, and then it's just like she plays out the Quizzy's words of just like, how did she make it all the way to Tatooine and do all of that with a hole in her? Because revenge does wonders for the will to live.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
neck, Anakin.
Like,
It's,
cut people's heads off, dude. Like, what's funny is Kenobi learned quick,
Oh, yeah.
when he was telling Ahsoka before she went on the siege of Mandalore. It's like, hey, I've killed him once before. You want to make sure you do the job.
Oh.
I rewatched
Yeah.
For unfortunate reasons, I rewatched the final 4 episodes of season 4 of the Clone Wars
Mm.
Yesterday. There's that fantastic line from James Arnold Taylor. When I cut you in half, I should have aimed for your neck.
Mhm.
A great line.
It's so good.
It's damn good.
I don't know.
All right. Anything else before we wrap up our analysis of the episode? Or actually, I'll put it this way. Let's do overall thoughts about this episode.
But-
John Boop, as our guest, you can both go first.
There's so much that happens in this episode that it's easy to lose sight of the forest through the trees. But there are some standout, fantastic, emotional episodes that I think we've hit on here and there. We get another flashback of Order 66, which I will never get tired of personally, because it is a turning point in the series. Therefore, it is important. Uncle Ben dies every time. It's fine. Get over it. But yeah, this is such a good episode that tees up episode 6 and everything that comes with it. It's just a dang fine episode. What do you think?
It's really good. It's, for me, the definitive Kenobi episode. The following one is very great, of course, but we've talked about there's so much in this one. It's about Kenobi, it's about Vader, it's about Anakin, it's about Reva, it's about the rebellion. It just keeps giving. And while the conclusion is epic in episode 6, everything here, I think, hits on the rationale of why a Kenobi series for me. Not that I wasn't sold instantly when it came on, but over time with each chapter as it dropped, it was a matter of continuing to justify its existence in the pantheon of Star Wars, by adding new facets to existing characters, going back and changing the way I watch 40-plus-year-old Star Wars. It's very powerful. And I think it's a good masterclass of what Star Wars is, because it, again, has all those elements, the big story, the little story, all of it's there. And I think it's standout performances by everybody as well. It's some of the best work they've done with Star Wars television streamy things.
Oh yeah.
Jacob?
This might be my favorite episode so far. I think this is where it really all comes together. I feel like every episode, I have had a lot of good things to say about it in this rewatch. I think it's a great show in many respects, but Kenobi is not one of my favorite Star Wars shows by any means. I'm pretty lukewarm on it overall. but I think that
All right.
for this show,
I legit thought we lost him.
what was that, Eli?
You said an incorrect opinion, but leave that.
Oh, okay. This episode, I think, is execution-wise, I feel like for me, my favorite so far. You know, it's been a hot minute since I watched part 6, so we'll see. But I think just in terms of the pacing, the content, this is where the show kind of puts it all together for me. And I think we get, by far, this is Reva's best episode by far, I think. Hats off to Moses Ingram. She did a tremendous job in this. Hats off to everyone. I was sad that Tala had to go, but she really added a lot to this episode. This was a really powerful episode, I think, looking at how far Obi-Wan has come just in this show. And then I think seeing him coming closer and closer again to facing off against Vader again, not as the scared, desperate version of himself that we got when he was nearly burned alive a couple episodes ago, but really Obi-Wan at his best, or at his most heroic. And I think that this episode did a tremendous job of bringing us that. I really liked the flashback, I liked how it played out. It is a little bit difficult on the first watch. It does take longer to kind of sink your teeth into, I think, the way that it pings back and forth, but I find that really effective as well for teasing out the maximum emotional payoff. And I think that's what this episode is all about, is the emotional payoff. And it's pretty freaking phenomenal. I can't lie. It's pretty phenomenal.
So I'll reference the Lady Gaga meme and say this episode is talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before. Is just spectacular. And it's not even my favorite episode of the show. It's not even my favorite episode of this show. This episode
Tell us how you really feel.
And not even everything that all y'all have said. Performances are fantastic. The writing's fantastic. Hayden Christensen owns this episode. It's
Absolutely.
his episode, and God bless him for it. I think y'all, by this point, the listeners have heard me wax poetic about the series enough to know that I truly do love it. It's one of my favorite projects of the Disney era, and yeah, I'm so excited to get to part 6 next week. But before we get to the end of our show, we have some questions we ask our first-time guests. And so Boop and John, Jacob and I will switch off asking these questions. First question for the both of you: who's your favorite Star Wars character?
I think it's been made very clear that I am a Maul simp, number one. But
Eli,
there is
control
also,
yourself.
my true love is also Ahsoka Tano. Maul and Ahsoka.
Share the space.
Oh yeah. A dyad, if you will.
My easy answer is Boba Fett. My complicated answer is Darth Vader.
Yes.
Valid. Those are all valid picks. Even Maul, Eli.
Even Maul.
Yeah,
The guest is always right. I'm sorry. The guest.
I don't know
Well,
why.
if I
think
knew that
that's
was the
what it
rule, I
was.
would have said a lot of
One
other
the
stuff.
most complex character.
I do not know why I keep co-hosting a show with this person, but I do. But all right. What are both of your Star Wars film rankings? If you don't have a ranking, you can do a favorite, top 5, whatever you want to do.
Oh boy.
Oh,
He has it.
Yeah, hang on.
Boop, don't
Yeah,
rank.
I'm interested.
We've
I
established.
don't think I've actually ever heard John's ranking, actually. So
And you could say your favorites if you don't want to
I mean,
go down the whole roster.
top 3 off the top of my head will always be Phantom Menace takes the top spot. The Last Jedi, of course, is the second. And then Attack of the Clones would be my third, because it is one of the most cozy movies
For sure.
of all time.
for some reason, I don't know exactly why, but I was worried you were going to get to that third slot and you were going to be like, okay, Phantom Menace, Last Jedi, and then Rogue One. I'm like, and then the minute I heard you say
Number
Attack of the
4.
Clones, the minute you said clones, I'm like, okay, thank God, at least it's not.
It's up there, Eli.
So as of my most recent ranking, because I do this for funsies in the middle of the night whenever I feel like it, the Phantom Menace is forever and always number 1 for me. The Last Jedi Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi. Although Revenge of the Sith and Return of the Jedi are kind of sharing the space in the recent months for me. And then Rise of Skywalker, Attack of the Clones, Solo, Rogue One, Force Awakens, and then finally A New Hope at the very end.
New Hope at the bottom. Interesting. Wow.
And contextualizing that for the folks listening, I love all of them. It's just
exactly.
Yeah, something's got to come in last.
Exactly. It's going to happen. And I couldn't bring myself to put the Clone Wars movie on there.
No.
I was gonna say something's got to come in last. It's why I wouldn't say Attack of the Clones is my least favorite Star Wars film. It's just my 10th favorite Star Wars film.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the way to put it.
10 of 10 Star Wars films.
There you go.
Only 10.
Dude,
This is holiday special erasure.
So we have the 9 saga films, and then we have Solo. 10. Boom.
Eli, this is insane. The war on Rogue One has to stop.
You have to speak to me regularly. I'd like for you to remember.
Go hang out with Scotty, who shares your wrong opinions.
Don't talk to Scotty.
I have to put up with this every week, and I think Rogue One is a top
God
5.
bless you.
Rogue One is a top 5 Star Wars movie in my
Right.
heart.
So,
I'm gonna become so insufferable once we do our season on Rogue One. I'm gonna be so insufferable.
Am I going to be doing those episodes on my own, Eli? I feel like I
No,
might end
you're
up doing
not,
those
but
on
I'm
my
kidding.
own.
No, I'm just gonna be.
Caveat.
I remember how salty I was for all the episodes we covered with Maul and TCW, Jacob.
Don't remind me, man.
That's the level of maximum salt I'm going to be bringing. No,
It
but
was
never.
like Michael.
My opinion of you in general, Eli.
It was like Michael Scott heckling the Christmas party in the office levels of salt at times during those episodes.
I'm having a bad time, and everyone
I
else
was just
is
like,
gonna
I love when Maul came back. Oh, big whoop, Maul's back.
If I can caveat to the films, I will say if you double feature Rogue One and A New Hope, it moves up in the ranking for me.
Very true. As
All
you
right.
say.
It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Jim, go ahead.
What is your favorite non-movie Star Wars project that people are missing out on and that more people should give a chance to?
Ooh.
I know. It's the D Squadron arc of Clone Wars.
Mm,
Honestly based.
Mm.
Honestly based.
That's
Like,
good.
I've heard so many
Unlimited in
people.
the Void is
skip
one of the
that
greatest
one.
episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars to ever exist. So
Yeah, no,
honestly based.
that's definitely up there.
Oh my gosh, that's a difficult one. I think the thing that I always take the opportunity to encourage people to check out if they haven't, if they like Star Wars and like reading, is the Dark Lord trilogy. It's Legends, but they're great books, and largely a good bit of that can coexist. But you have Revenge of the Sith, Labyrinth of Evil, Revenge of the Sith, and Dark Lord of the Sith. They're great books, and it just all deals with leading up to the creation of, and then the moment after Vader.
Are all of them Stover? No, not all of them are Matt Stover. It's Lucino is Labyrinth of Evil, and who's Dark Lord of Darth Vader.
I can't get to it, but I will look it up for you. But
No, I got it.
there you go. You're probably.
Oh, it's also Lucino. It's also Lucino.
There you go.
So
Lucino
Lucino
does
Stover, Lucino. Is that
Mhm.
what we're saying?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, I really enjoy those novels. Labyrinth of Evil is along the story that Genndy works with for season 3 of Clone Wars. It's really interesting, good stuff. And since we're talking so much about Kenobi and Vader, that's a good little side project for anybody that's looking for the next thing to read.
Absolutely. All right. Next question is: we all have our favorite. We did a whole live stream about these lovable guys and girls and non-binary people. This was like a month ago. So what are both of your favorite Star Wars background characters?
Tam Polsa from Rogue One is definitely up there for me, thanks to the Afra comics. I guess I could say IG-88 is a background character.
Don't steal my answer.
I also I love Coleman Trebor from Attack of the Clones.
The Force's favorite idiot.
I love a good Jedi dinosaur.
Dino Jedi.
Uh, oh, I feel like I need one more. That battle droid in episode 3 that nudges his buddy when General Grievous is about to go forearms on Kenobi.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely one Jedi.
Watch the scene, and when Grievous comes up, don't watch Grievous. Watch the background. You'll see him.
Watch the background droids in general.
Yeah, there's one in The Phantom Menace washing a tank. The guys behind the production are so thoughtful and silly. I love them so much.
Yeah. Oh man, there's the Tal's Jedi that I cannot pronounce the name of, and you have to say.
Oh,
it for me.
Falam Dama?
Falam Dama.
Mhm.
Yes, I say it wrong every time I try and pull
Wow, I've heard so much love for Raran. I haven't heard so love for Fowl.
I'm a stan, as well as
that was my next one.
Yeah, I love him so much.
And then obviously IG-88 is my favorite good boy droid. Well, he's a bad boy, but he's good to me. But
He's a real bad boy. He tried to take over the galaxy.
Exactly.
he
and
got
he
this
failed.
close. This close.
He's such a cringe fail loser in Legend. I have no choice but to stay. But yeah, that's mine. So many good background characters in the 2003 Clone Wars series. We'd be here all day.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Jacob.
What is the coolest Star Wars species?
The Whippids. I
Good
freaking
choice.
love the Whippids. Kakruk is one of my favorite Jedis ever.
My man,
Yep.
Kakruk.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're and now only in Legends, because if you look at the suit that they used for the cantina scene in A New Hope, they look like garbage, but Kakruk makes them look good.
For sure. And they're not necessarily the coolest species, but I think the Talls in general is my favorite alien species.
The real question is, do you like the Duke Talls or do you like the Growl Talls?
I like the Growl Talls.
I like the Dukes. If you don't know what we're talking about, you haven't watched enough Star Wars.
It's true. I just think
That's a deep cut.
Oh man.
All right, Jacob.
If you lived in the Star Wars universe, what would your job be? Your
Oh.
vocation?
Oh man, I think I'd love to be a senator for the Galactic Senate and just attempt to make a difference. But I know for a fact that I'd just be like, just some guy. I'd just be like a trash collector somewhere, just like watching this. I'd be Broom Boy Part 2 is what I would be. But yeah, if I had a dream job that was Star Wars, it would be in the Senate.
Yeah, because that's the kicker: is what job would I want, or what job would I
Yeah.
actually have? I feel like a good middle ground is I would want the life that Galen had very briefly.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Bombing, really?
Yeah.
yes, a man of my talents. I love his little underground hut.
Oh,
I
for sure.
freaking love the landscape that they chose for that planet. It's so freaking beautiful. The Black Shores. It's just, oh my gosh! If I could wake up and look at that every freaking day.
Mhm.
Overcast almost year round, so nice weather. Yeah, I'd be a freaking farmer on some
yeah.
silly little moon somewhere.
Or like a gonk maintenance person. Just the head pat gonk.
That's what it'd be. Instead of cows and everything, we'd have droids. We'd have a droid farm.
Oh, we would be droid sanctuary people.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The reverse.
There you go.
We opened it with L3 after she miraculously survived.
I know. Out of nowhere.
All right, we all know one of my favorite behind-the-scenes quotes of Star Wars ever. It's like poetry. They rhyme. Every stanza rhymes to the last. Hopefully it'll work. What is your favorite "It's like poetry, it rhymes" moments in Star Wars?
Ooh. I think just Harrison Ford saying "it's faking in space" to who did he say that to?
It was on some late night show.
Yeah, but yeah, that's if something can encapsulate my love and appreciation of Star Wars while also my absolute contempt with some people in the Star Wars fandom is just, baby, it's faking in space. Chill. You're gonna be fine.
So do you mean like a line like that, or do you mean a poetry moment?
a poetry moment in Star Wars.
Okay,
Oh.
fail. But
Maybe
no,
a
you
parallel or a callback
that-
or something.
for me, since we're talking about Kenobi, one of my favorite is definitely the parallel in Chapter 6 of Vader facing Kenobi as Kylo Ren facing Luke on Crate. The Masters facing their failures is some of my greatest Star Wars moments. I rank it very highly because it's emotionally powerful for me, and I think that's the beauty of it. Is it happened to two of the greatest Jedi ever. They messed up,
Yeah.
but then they realized that and made the right choice to own up to it. Those are the kinds of moments I think that make Star Wars for me, because it's moments I see myself in.
Fair.
Absolutely. Jacob?
What is your favorite Star Wars planet?
Oh,
Naboo.
Naboo. Yeah.
Easy choice.
It's so pretty.
I'll say, just to be different, I'll say alternatively Camino, though, because every time it rains, I'm in a mood to watch Attack of the Clones because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's something so aesthetic about it.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. If you could take one item, one object, or force power from Star Wars and have it in this life, what would it be and why?
Oh wow, that's a good one.
An astromech droid.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mhm.
That's a
I
good
think
one.
so many moments throughout the series are because of R2. And it'd be nice to be like, hey, can you see what's wrong with my car today? Or can you fix the dishwasher? But also to have somebody to hang out with when you got nobody else.
Yeah, I have a
Not that I
very-
don't like have that
I'm
problem.
your astromech droid. We know this.
You got a little thing that goes doot.
Jesus Christ. I have a very woo answer, and that's just I would love to have Force Recall, what Quinlan Voss has, and because I love
Psychometry.
that's the one, psychometry. Thank you. See, this is why you're the question writer and I'm the question asker.
Good job, Trivia Boy.
Thanks. I love going thrifting for books. And I love picking up the crustiest old paperback I can find and looking at all of the different folds in it and trying to figure out like where it came from. I think that would be a very cool power to have. Just because I love things with history to them.
All right. Final question. I'm going to show both of you a character, and you just got to tell me how you pronounce the name of this character.
Oh,
That's all you got.
God. Is it Coleman Kajak? Zam Wessel.
That's Zam Wessel.
So this bit has been overplayed so much. Our good friend Devore from A Large View of the Force pronounced it as Wazelle, and we've gotten every single person minus one, I believe, to come on this pod and say Wessel. Just we've gotten everybody from Alex and Molly Damon to people that we know in our friend group like Alden Diaz and Michael McCoy and Jared the Dark Jedi. Every single person minus one, I believe, has said Wessel. So
Yeah.
we've beaten this point. We've beaten this point into the ground way too much.
I was thinking you were gonna, like I said, like I thought you were gonna talk about Coleman Kajak, like the Jedi Master from Attack of the Clones, because for whatever reason, George made a lot of difficult names for Attack of the Clones Jedi.
Yeah.
He did.
He was making shit up.
But yeah, it's I always go with Star Trek rules for that. It's Nuclear Wessel.
Exactly. Do we ever say it out loud?
I was thinking of that. I think the only
That's the thing. In the Bounty Hunter video game, she says, "Hi, I'm Zam Wazelle."
really.
And then, but then Wikipedia has no canon pronunciation for it, and has both as correct for
Well,
and for Legends. And then to go even further with it, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, the first mission of Attack of the Clones is called A Wrestle with.
Wessel.
It's not going to be Wazelle. It's not going to be Wazelle. It has
Well,
to be Wessel.
that game sucks. So
You have such opinions today. My God.
um,
Just because you had a bad time doesn't mean everybody else did.
I guess if it could be Han Leah.
Oh yeah.
Wazelle does sound like a Star Wars name though. But you know what it's gonna be? If we could, it like you know how when George couldn't get the same actor back, he would create a new character.
This
So
is
it's like
Zam Wessel.
yeah,
This is Zam Wazelle.
exactly.
That's it. They're cousins.
They're out there. Oh my
It's gonna be a
gosh.
fake wedge situation.
Exactly.
Eve Koff and whoever his cousin's
Fantastic.
supposed to be.
All right.
Agent Kolar.
Oh, thank you.
As we close out this incredibly lengthy but extremely fun episode,
You're welcome.
no, absolutely. We'll close by asking where we can find both of you.
Under a rock. I'm at Duke Trooper on Twitter, which is where I'm at the most, but I'm also JDub on Instagram. And although we don't produce content anymore for now, you
Who
can
knows?
look at our backlog of content and tweets over at Nerdherder Cast. That's everywhere: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. You can definitely check out the lengthy backlog that we have. But I guarantee we're just like this on all of our other socials as well.
It's very true.
Mhm.
Some of us are a little bit more unhinged than in person, but yeah, you can find me at Boopenheim MEW on Twitter. I'm known to make jokes about Dracula and talk about Dracula a lot. I'm gonna be insufferable when the Robert Eggers Nosferatu comes out. Just FYI.
Yeah, if anybody chooses to follow us for Star Wars, you're going to get
Good
that
luck.
probably 3 times a week.
Yeah.
In the mix of many other things we love. I talk about Transformers a lot.
I'm out here calling grown men baby girl. It is what it is.
But yeah.
I am still much looking forward to, of course, all yours decision, but I will be there day one when Nerdherder comes back.
I
will be
appreciate that.
Day one. I think that's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Next week, we are going to be covering part 6 with the enemy of Star Wars Twitter.
Just enemy.
Public enemy number 1.
Public enemy number 1. Also public enemy of number 1 of Jared the Dark Jedi. Our number 1 contender on Epic Conversations, Alden Diaz, will be coming back to In a Galaxy to cover part 6 with us. Incredibly excited for that. Incredibly excited to have him on to cover one of my favorite Star Wars TV episodes in the history of ever.
Good shit.
In the meantime, you can listen to us everywhere: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You can follow us everywhere at In a Galaxy Pod. You can find all my stuff at my link tree, linktr.e/_OchiFan327. And I hope you all enjoyed the bracket stream. We haven't done it yet. We're recording this before the bracket stream comes out, but we'll be releasing it after. Hope you enjoyed that. We will be doing that we've decided to make the bracket stream a bi-monthly thing. We're going to do it every other month. And the next one will be, I'm sure I'll announce this on the stream. Again, I don't know, this is before this, but I'm sure I'll announce it on the screen. Then the next one will be the best of the Sith Lords. And I also know for a fact that if he can make it, which I'm sure he can, we will be having not a Sith Lord, but a Dark Jedi with us
There he is.
on that bracket.
That's great.
We of course couldn't allow him on for Jedi because I don't trust him around a certain green Jedi Master.
No.
Even if he's not, I'm going to be defending him anyway. But I don't trust him around. Like, not he's not going to criticize that guy on my show. That's not how that's happening. He can do whatever he wants. But this is my show, so he's not criticizing my guy Yoda. Not doing it. But yeah, look forward to that. Look forward to Epic Conversations. We're in the process of getting Michael McCoy versus Claire Stribling up. Obviously, Boop is one of my co-hosts on that. It is one of the best decisions I made, getting them off the teams.
Yeah.
Legitimately, I feel so rewarded by it. And I think that's going to be it for this episode. So until next time, may the force be with you. Always.